Okay, hello everyone. Come on in
Hi,
to Act
everyone.
Now Live. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
And I'm Regeanie Corona.
It's good to be here. Reg, what did you do this weekend? How's California?
California is good. We have beautiful weather, and we are going through the opening process. People are starting to open businesses again. We're still kind of staying in a bit because things still are on the rise in terms of number of cases, but things are opening up a bit. So we're slow to go out.
Yeah. Yeah, we are we're kind of opening up. A lot of places are opening up. My son and I just got back out to volunteer with our organization. We went to a place and just kind of cooked a meal and served a meal to people, the residents there. And then he got his driver's permit finally. So
Oh,
that's kind of scary, to get going with him on that. But he's doing pretty well.
oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scary, huh? I think that's
I know.
awesome.
And it's funny because we're talking about fear. So it's kind of one of those things where the clock just keeps ticking and you have to just kind of go with life and you have to just attack it. So,
Yeah.
I'm excited about our topic today. And I know that we're going to let people kind of come in and we are going to cover fear again this week on our show. But before we get there, we are going to be back right after this. So we hope you guys enjoy this. All right. Okay. So today we're going to talk about excuses and the excuses that we make that that kind of impede us and drive into the fear to take action. So before we get there, I wanted Reg to just spend some time going over, because she's the business strategist of us too. And so she keeps me on track a little bit. But, we had popped on and we talked about Act Now and the acronym of ACT. And I wanted Reg to spend some time just talking about what ACT is.
Yeah, so I have I guess I have a strategic mind. I'm always thinking about strategy. And when we started talking about action and taking action and writing our book, one of the first things I said was, okay, Natalie, we've got to think about something that people are able to embrace and understand and remember easily. So to me, that is a process or a system. I come from an information technology background. And so that means that I'm usually thinking about what are systems and processes that we can use. So assess, commit, and transform. That is our 3-step system for taking action. And that's what we talk a lot about in our book. And assessing is really looking at where you are. Where are you right now and why? Not why. What is preventing you from taking action? And then why? Why are you not taking the action? And then what do you need to do to start taking action? Commit is the piece that you move into. It's the second step. Once you've done the assessment, you move into commitment. And commitment is really about, let me put together a plan that I am going to commit to sticking to so that I take action and get to my goals. And then transform is the third step. And transforming is really where the magic is, because when you take action and you implement your plan, the process of doing that and walking it out and connecting with an accountability partner, that's all the transformation that happens. Because I promise you, once you get it down and it is a system and you do it, it's repeatable. So it's really rinse and repeat. And you start doing that and it just becomes second nature and you do it automatically. So
Yeah, and I
that is
love that.
ACT.
Yeah, and I love it because as many of you know, Reg and I started to just meet regularly, and that was kind of our word of the year, which was action. And we took that action because we committed to sit down and have a weekly call to just work on different things that we were working through on our own journeys in our own businesses. And as we were going along, we saw that things really transformed, you know, and it was funny because we never thought, I mean, I never thought that picking a word action was going to lead to us coming up with this incredible acronym that helps us live out what we're doing and really puts into a frame of mind of teaching other people to do it and bringing them along. So again, that's the Reg part of it, because she always looks at things and is able to say, oh my gosh, there is a system to this. You know, there is something that we can put together. And so we came up with this, which, you know, surrounds, of course, then our next step was writing the book. We didn't know we were going to do that either. And as we're walking this out, and still being committed to each other and still taking action and moving forward, we're seeing that it's transforming into many more things within this business. We just thought it was going to be a book together. And so we're glad to be doing this show. We're going to be coming back every week in the month of June talking about fear. If you guys are joining, come on in and put up in the comments as we talk along that you're here. We'd like to say hello to you. I know that we see some people that we know. Vanji Torres, good to see you, as well as my dear friend, Dr. Amit Gozalia in California. So good to see you guys. So this is what ACT is, Act Now. And it's not just about taking that action, but what Reg and I believe is you need to do this now or you're not going to do it. So that kind of leads us into our topic for today, which I absolutely love because it's excuses. You know, as if you follow me, you know that I've also just talked to my really good friend, Derek Coleman Jr., who's the Super Bowl champion. He has a book and he has a mantra about no excuses. And I feel like we can fall into giving up some excuses of why we're not taking action. So, Reg, let's talk about some of the really common, popular, I should say, excuses that might impede us from taking action.
Yeah, there's a number of them, but the ones that we see very frequently and we want to talk about today, you know, how often have you said or have you heard someone say, I really, really want to do X, Y, and Z, but you know, right now is not the time. I need to prepare, or I don't have whatever it is. You fill in the blank. I don't have the money. I don't have the experience. I don't have the knowledge, whatever it may be. So now is not the right time for me to do it. That's a big one that a lot of us will use. There's also, let's see if you recognize this one. I'm too busy. I can't do it right now because I have so many things on my plate. I'm really too busy. And then the other one that we hear a lot is, well, I'm getting ready to do it. I'm almost there. I just have to do a little more research and make sure that I tighten it up a bit and I get just the right information that I need. And then as soon as I have that, then I'll be ready. Those are three big, really, really commonly used, I'm going to say it, excuses.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I know I'm guilty. Nat?
I do. So we thought it would be kind of fun to share some of our excuses that we've walked through. But then also not just share it, but maybe talk a little bit more through our ACT acronym in how we got past it too, right? So for me, I'm going to say, okay, timing and research was definitely two of my popular excuses because, you know, for me, timing, for many of you that do know me, I do have a lot of things going on. And, you know, I easily said, no, you know, I've got to get, you know, this business done, or I'm working as an audiologist. When Reg first met me, that was my excuse. It was, a lot of people, including Lisa Copeland, who was on last week, both she and Reg were two of the people who said, when are you going to get your thing done? Because when you get it done, we'll be behind you. And I was looking at them like, what in the world are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm an audiologist. That's what I do. I'm just an audiologist. That word just, was my excuse of not taking action. And whether it was timing or it's leaning now more towards the research part of it, where I thought, there's no way that I can do what they think that I'm going to be able to do, because I only know ears, so I'm not able to do this. However, as I was assessing my own capabilities and feeding myself my own excuses, I thought it was funny, because as we talk about assessing doesn't necessarily mean that it's a tool to assess. My assessment came from other people who called me on what it is that I was supposed to do. So, Reg and I tell this story of me driving her to the airport, and we were talking about just what I could do in social media and just in the communications field. And I just was, rolling my eyes in my head, and I thought, I do not know what she's talking about. No, I mean, I don't even know anything about marketing or branding or communications or social media. And I know she kind of laughed and giggled and rolled her eyes right back and said, what are you talking about? You probably do this better than anybody else that's out there. And I thought, so then I tried to give her another excuse. And I said, well, I don't have any degree. I've taken no courses, nothing about it. And she again laughed and said, well, if that's the case, then, and if it will make you feel better, why don't you just take courses then? And it just kind of hit me like, oh my gosh, that was an excuse. And she just gave me a solution to my excuse. And now I don't have any more excuses. And so that kind of got me that was my whole assessment stage. And then I walked into the commitment stage where, I decided to start just building something, putting myself out there, taking on clients just to see what I was doing. And then I watched my business Connect for Excellence transform, and I got more confident. And, I can say the rest is history, but it's not yet, because we're still writing history. So that was basically my excuses, I would say, about maybe timing and believing who I was, and then also being called on it. So that was my experience. What about you, Reg?
Yeah, first of all, I think that it's so important to acknowledge the reason why we're talking about this under the sort of main umbrella or category of fear is because ultimately these things all tie back to our internal fears. The fear of putting ourselves out there and being judged on what we're doing, and worse yet, possibly making a mistake while we're doing it, right? What happens if I go out and I do it and then I just totally fumble and I'm embarrassed? Well, that's part of the growing process. So you kind of have to get over that. But for me, all three of these I have had as excuses at some point in my life. And I hate to admit, I sometimes still have them. The difference now, though, is I catch it right away. And I'm like, oh no, I'm doing that thing. So I do that assessment phase immediately. And then I roll into the 3-step process and I get unstuck. But timing, there have been many times where I've said, oh, okay, I can't do this right now. I'm not ready. Even when I left my IT career, it took 18 months for me to leave because I kept saying, but this is what I'm really good at. This is what I know. I know IT. I know cybersecurity like the back of my hand, and I do it well. And I'm going to leave that. And I have no idea how I'm going to do with what I go into next. And so timing, I kept putting it off, and there were so many reasons why. But the truth was, I was afraid. I was afraid of leaving a comfortable job where I made multiple 6 figures. I didn't know what I was going to make going out. There were all kinds of fears wrapped into it. And I remember a friend of mine pushing me and saying, if you don't ever do this, you'll never know.
Mhm.
if you would have succeeded at it. And so why not? Being too busy is another one. I have often, because I really am busy like you now, there's a lot of things that I'm usually involved in. But there are times where I use the busyness as a way to procrastinate and
Mhm.
put something off. And what I've come to know about myself and many others that I coach and work with is that when we give those excuses, when we say we're too busy, that's justifying to ourselves why it's okay. But when you dig a little bit deeper under the surface, you realize I'm really just using that as a crutch. I don't want to move forward because it's easier for me to stand in where I'm at, use the crutch, and be comfortable than to throw the crutch down and say, okay, I'm going to try to walk in this and be good at it, or at least acceptable in it,
Mhm.
acceptable to myself. And then research is one that I really get stuck in. And we also hear this called paralysis by analysis.
Mhm.
And I have been very guilty of it. If I want to get a course out, or if I want to do a coaching program, or if I want to write something, or whatever it is, I have to do a ton of research. Now, I've been called the research queen. I do enjoy doing research. I think that kind of ties back to some of my IT background and data and finding data. There's just something exciting about that to me. But what I have found is when I am afraid of doing something, I will allow myself to get stuck in that research mode. And I think, oh my gosh, I'm doing something amazing. I'm finding all of this great information and I know how to do it. But no, I'm allowing myself to stay in a place of comfort and not
Mhm.
actually moving forward and taking greater action. So I always stop and assess. I take some time out when I see that happening. In the past, it took me a while to get to the point of assessment. But as I mentioned, now I know this system. And so I recognize what's happening. I stop. And then I may take a couple of hours. Sometimes I'll take a full day. And I do just some introspective work. And when I assess, I don't just look at what's happening. I try to get to the root of it. Why is it
Mhm.
happening? Because I want it to go away. I don't want it to keep happening, right? So that's part of the assessment process. And then once I've done that, then I can come up with a plan, and then I'll commit to the plan, and then I walk through the transformation piece. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it's been for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned a great way that you actually stop to assess the busyness as well, right? So, can you share with our viewers as well what you do to kind of walk you through this busy time? Because these are excuses. And so we can get stuck here and just never take that action. But you had a really great way that you moved through the busyness, I think. Mhm.
Yeah, so I will either journal or I will take my planner for the day, and I usually have a space where I reflect. And I'll think about what are some of the things, the feature things that I want to do. And then I'll think about, well, have I taken some action on them and why not? So when I'm going through that, I'll list some of those things out. But the thing that I'm really trying to get to when I'm doing that is putting on paper so that I can confront
Mhm.
what my challenges are, what's keeping me stuck. And when I can write down, and I do a lot of mind mapping. So you'll
Mhm.
see where I will not just journal, but I'll draw circles around words, and then I'll start connecting the words, or that works for me visually. Um, but it's whatever allows you to take those ideas of what may be holding you back and putting them. I think it's important to put them on paper, because
Mhm.
when you put them on paper, you're sort of forcing yourself to confront them. You're making them more tangible. And when you do that, then it's important to sit in that space and really try to understand deeply what's the root of the problem. What's causing you to stay stuck in that place? Because until you confront that,
Mhm.
you can't really deal with putting a plan in place, because you're going to keep going back to the root of the problem and getting stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that too. And I've seen your mind maps and they're pretty incredible too. I'm hoping, when we do a workshop or when we have our retreat, that's something that we can spend some time doing because
Oh, yeah.
it's a really cool process that I've seen you do. So I really think that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. So, again, these are just when Reg and I were talking about today's show, these are things that we wanted to bring up as excuses, like it says, for not taking action. But we don't want to leave you hanging there, but we also want to throw out the fact that we do have a page that you can come and give us your email address, because we will send you a checklist that will help you, just a tool to take action, to take you to the next step. We will also enroll you in our 5-day e-course as well. So we want to make sure that that we have that out there. I'll put this back up here. Because
that 5-day e-course is really easy. I just want to throw that out there. Sometimes people think they see course and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time. Going back to being too busy, right? But the e-course literally it's dropped into your email box, one component of the course a day, and it's just one page of material for you to read through, and it just contains nuggets of information and wisdom, I think, to help you take action, because there are things that helped us.
Yeah. And it's exciting because, again, Reg and I, we're not finished, in what we're doing. However, we're maybe just a step ahead. And so we really want to bring other people along. We really want to share what we're learning. Again, if you're watching the replay, if you're watching live, comment and tell us your excuses, because I think that once you get it out there and it's spoken, it's like what Reg is saying. You're one step closer to really like releasing those crutches and leaning on those crutches to be able to help you take that step forward. And, this is just the beginning, right? And we're talking about fear this month. And we've spent some time with a fearless leader last week. If you've missed that, catch the video on our YouTube channel or on Facebook. And now it's also on our Instagram, IGTV. But we talked with a fearless leader that had many golden nuggets. Today, we're kind of talking about looking at the excuses that we give ourselves to have fear. I'm going to put up this graphic real quick to tell you about our other two topics that we're going to be talking about in our Facebook Live as well the next 2 Sundays. And so, again, just surrounding ourselves with this fear and the topic of fear. We wanted to just bring it to light. We're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about even fear and just staying healthy. I think that that's really huge too. But, we want people to just get out there, stay accountable with us, have a conversation. We don't want to really talk at you, but we want you to be part of the conversation. Vanjie's here. She's been getting our emails. So she says awesome information via the emails. And so she's been loving the emails that are coming out. But yeah, so this is just our episode for this week. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add, Reg.
No, other than, just recognizing that there are things that you want to do, and sometimes getting those things done can be challenging. And it helps when you have a community of people that are sort of in the same place and they're cheering each other on. And we want this to be that. We want this to be that community of people, to be able to cheer each other on and encourage one another, and possibly connect as accountability partners within the group, because those dreams that you're holding inside, those goals that you want to accomplish, they are there for a reason, and they need to be real. They need to be manifested. But there are, oftentimes there are things that get in the way of us bringing them forth. And sometimes it takes other people who want to see us succeed to remind us, hey, you've got what you need. You just need the encouragement and maybe some tools to help you move forward. And when you feel like you get stuck, then you have that accountability partner, you have that community that can say, hey, first of all, this is no judgment zone. We understand, because we've all been there. But second of all, get your butt in gear. We're here to help you, to help you move forward in action and to cheer you along. So, Natalie and I went to an event last year, and someone by the name of Melissa Bradley, we both loved hearing her talk. And one of the things she talked about is you have to have a pillow and a mirror. And the pillow is the person that's going to give you that comfort zone and hug you when things are not quite going right. But the mirror is the person that's going to look at you and say, yep, get your butt in gear.
Yeah, and I think we all need, yes, the pillow and the mirror. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I got chills when you just brought that up now too, because I remember that moment. And I just remember that it takes sometimes somebody else to tell you to get your butt into gear. And we are here to do that because we believe that it works.
Yep.
And again, we both believe that everybody has something to give. And for the people who are stuck like where we were, it's time to get going. And so with that, thank you so much for joining us again on our episode. Be back next Sunday at 3:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for our next episode. And it looks like we're going to be talking about fear and trust. So that will be fun to talk about. And we're so glad you joined us. So thank you, and great to see you all.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy your week. And don't forget to take action by first just assessing.